You're talking about Jack Black. I still love Jack Black.
Who doesn't?
I wore a Tenacious D shirt to my first day of high school.
I love Tenacious D.
First day of high school, I wear like a multicolored Tenacious D shirt. At the time, I thought it was like the coolest shit in the world because it was like a mixture of like comedy and music,
folk rock, and just jamming. Tribute's a great, fucking phenomenal song.
Tenacious D, best comedic band ever, by the way.
Weird Al Yankovic.
Weird Al?
I mean,
I'm giving it to Tenacious D.
Tenacious D? Okay.
Because I'll listen to Tenacious D albums.
Yeah.
And there are some like Tenacious D songs that are original songs that fucking rock.
Yes.
Weird Al is doing covers.
Yes.
Although I do love Weird Al. You know, VHF.
I mean, yeah. I just think greatest comedic.
Flight of the Conchords, another good one.
Another classic.
I hate to like leave them out of the discussion.
Great little bit of television they created.
But there's something about that tribute.
Tribute, dude.
They got Dave Grohl going too.
Oh, God. That video, the music video.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
big deal.
Guess where we're going. Guess where we're going.
I wanted to have a musical intro that was so complicated, it required an external hard drive.
I dig it. First time I've ever danced on the pod.
I was gonna say we had to get you moving at some point, so
Gotta have a nice new attitude based on the craziness of the last pod we did. Was a little too. I was a little too much. You know, I want to apologize to the people out there.
Biden bro Matt, seen owning conservatives across the country.
Man. Super enthusiastic Biden voter.
Matt, you use the term flyover states. We want to know what you mean by this exactly.
Right.
No, let's not go down
I'm
that hole.
gonna
Let's
piss
just-
too many people off.
Let's keep it. Let's keep it Tenacious D.
Jack Black,
Kyle Gass.
So you want to talk about albums? That album, there's few, people like, oh, what's album do you know every word to? There's like maybe like 2 or 3. It's like Jamiroquai, Little L. I know every word to that album.
Okay.
I know every word to that Tenacious D album, and then the Smiths, the Singles album. I know every word to that album. Those are like the 3 where I know almost every word.
One of them is the Tenacious D album.
Yeah,
though?
for sure. I know every word of that first Tenacious D album with like tribute on it. I know almost every single word of every song. Like if you played it, I'll just start boom, boom, boom.
Wonder Boy.
Oh my God, that's a speech. The speech.
Is there a speech for Wonder Boy?
Doesn't he do the long talking and then it's like Wonder Boy?
Yeah.
I love the me and KG. We're talking about sex supreme. We like to cream jeans. Have you ever been worked on? The 2 guys who were hot for your snatch. Yeah. That's what I'm offering you. I love that. And the bass line, they're so good. They're just musically super talented.
Musically
too.
incredible.
You know what I mean?
I saw Tenacious
fun.
D in concert and fucking laughed.
I
like,
want to.
You know, he gets like a play school fake saxophone out too. I can't. Gotta stop kissing Jack Black's ass.
No, man.
But that dude,
let's appreciate him.
Talented as fuck.
Yeah,
Actor.
let's appreciate him. And he's not a bad dude. It's not like, there's not like, there's never been a story about Jack Black. Like,
no, Jack Black's amazing.
Funny, just talented. We watched Nacho Libre recently. And it was like, I hadn't.
Did we talk about Nacho Libre on the podcast before?
Maybe.
Did we talk about School of Rock on the podcast before?
No.
No
Maybe.
confidence in any of
None
these.
of
like
this.
I couldn't tell you.
These
I
all
love him
blend
so
together,
much.
yeah.
I could have been reciting his lyrics here and there.
My Randy's dad loves Nacho Libre.
That? You like that?
And I never knew he liked that movie so much. And he's just like, you want to watch my favorite movie? I was like, I'm dying to know. And he turned on Nacho Libre, and he's like, we watch this as the family all the time.
Get
and I was like,
fuck
really?
Outta here.
And he does. And they were all laughing at the same points. And I was like, but I hadn't
Get
seen
that
it
corn out of my
forever.
face.
Get that corn out of my face. I love it. I like the puppies.
I saw Nacho Libre when I was in high school with friends, and I fucking hated it.
Yeah, okay.
I absolutely hated it. I don't know if it was the vibe. I don't know if maybe I was too old for it. Like I was too cool for school. Like that whole feeling. If I was a little younger or a little older, I think either way it might have been okay. I was just in this Goldilocks zone of shittiness.
Where it's like, it's too not cool, it's not edgy enough,
exactly.
It's a family story. I mean, it's not really like, inappropriate. He just wants to become a max wrestler, and he makes money for his orphanage and, blah, blah, blah.
We've probably been watching him, too, for many, many years since The Cable Guy. I'm sure you saw The Cable Guy back in
That was, I think,
day.
his first one with Ben Stiller. It was The Cable Guy.
But you saw it when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, he's been a part of our mental zeitgeist, at least since the mid-'90s.
He's actually his first movie I found out he's in. It's really weird that we're bringing this up right now. The Neverending Story. Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't seen that movie despite the similar namesake.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Continue. I'm going to adjust your mic stand because it's popping up, but I'm going to come by you. No, but what about the Never...
Done.
Yeah, there you go. That one steak. That was the one.
That was.
We
I
do
could
our
tell.
own production here, so the garden steak's got to stay on the mic stands.
Any interns looking for like unpaid work?
In the Chicago area.
So there's 2 of them. And I was like, I love those two when I was a kid.
I've seen parts, to be fair, but
It's
nothing of this is based off of the Neverending
no,
Story.
yeah, no. It's funny, But the third one is actually a German film. They're all German films, but the third one was made specifically like in German. And it is the debut movie of Jack Black. Is the third Neverending Story movie.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not joking. I figured this out recently because I watch a movie and I'll do the deep dive on the movie, especially a movie that I used to like as a kid.
Yeah.
I made Clementine watch it, and she was like, I told her, I was like, this movie's a fun movie, but it's serious and a little scary. And she's like, really? And then, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie, the horse dies and like it gets crazy and there's a scary wolf, and she's like, Daddy, it was very serious. And she was like,
You're giving me equestrial trauma. Can't handle this.
I'll never forget the horse dying in the mud and him just saying, hey, Jack, and the horse fucking dies. And when you're 6 and you watch this horse dying, it's traumatic. Anyways, Jack Black's first movie, Neverending Story 3. I can't remember the tagline for it, but yeah.
I wish, we talked about last time about doing an episode all in some sort of accent, some sort of vocal tone.
Yeah.
Do you think you could? Would you rather talk
like Jack Black?
Jack Black an entire episode?
Oh man, that would be challenging.
Or would you rather talk like, I'm just gonna say Will Arnett. I'm gonna give you a different one. So.
Will Arnett's more like, this is kind of me doing him and doing Batman, really.
Sort of Jack Black super staccato type, or like, or more of like a Will Arnett, like, sort of like a timbre where the vocal cords have been fried by cigarette usage.
I'd really like to do more of a Ben Stein, a bit more like this is Ben Stein.
That'd work.
But Jack Black, he's more like,
Yeah. Oh, I fucking love him.
Yeah, he's great.
I fucking love him.
He's great.
Have you seen that episode of him on the Eric Andre show?
No, I have not. I would love to watch that.
Have you seen that episode of him on the Neverending Becoming podcast, episode 402?
Stay tuned.
In 2026?
I would love that.
Not sure if that math
I would
flies out.
love it. I would love it. Speaking of love it, looks like we
Hey,
have
Zoe escaped.
Yeah.
The dog's out here. What's up?
we have our
baby?
new. This is the intern actually. This is the hired
This is the
intern.
intern we got from the
That's why
Chicago
the
Reader.
stakes, yeah.
I put a classified ad in the Chicago Reader.
She showed up. She works for
Got this puppy.
Milkbone, so for nothing.
She's shedding right now. Freaked out.
Dogs. I want a dog so bad. I know we've talked about this, but man, I just want a dog. I just feel like I just need a companionship.
Yeah, you talked about in a different podcast about wanting a dog.
It's funny. We saw a brindled colored boxer today walking across, and I said, "Look at that beautiful brindled colored dog." And my daughter was like, "What?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it."
That's good. You're giving it that ACT, SAT vocabulary
Yeah, you gotta have
years in advance.
The voracious vocabulary. It's what it's all about. I like having big words.
Dude, so summer is still in session. I played that song at the beginning here.
Loved it, by the way.
Before summer started, even when I was still in my Corona indoor madness, I put that together on
wow.
like a sampler.
So that's been around for a minute then.
That has been. But I wanted to play while we're still outdoors. I'm still in short pants. I'm still enjoying the full riches that summer has to offer.
Just like Zoe, I think we got a couple of more weeks of this. Aww.
We do got time.
I think we got a couple more weeks of summer, right?
Yeah.
We got to.
Yeah.
We got to.
By that, it literally, 13 days. Just one day less than 2 weeks. Just slightly less.
And then that's it. And that's
she can
it.
stay. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. She's out here. She's
I think
not
she's
going
not
anywhere.
even in frame now.
Yeah,
so
right.
she's gonna be our first guest.
We have a guest. We have an audience member and guest.
No, but you mentioned right at the top about bringing conservative people on. We do need to do more shit like that.
I would think that's cool. I just different voices. So I mean, and people, and I don't want just like a conservative fucking troll. I want somebody who's conservative that will like joke around and it's
I want
not
a conservative goblin.
Yeah, you want a straight up goblin? Oh, I do goblins. I would invite like 55-year-old white men who really love Trump and post about it on Facebook all the time. I'd vote. I'd sit right here and talk to them.
Before you came over, you sent me a list of the episodes that were scratched from
geez.
Joe Rogan's
Speaking
transition to Spotify, and it was basically like a whole bunch of right-leaning names that he's had.
A litany of that. Alex
Which is
Jones.
fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Alex Jones doesn't even count almost because
No,
he's like
you're right. Bad, horrible
talking
example.
about troll characters, whatever.
Yeah.
And
But like Jordan Peterson and just like what is it? They had Milo, but I know he's got his old issues. They took Milo off, and I could read the list, but I don't really want to do it. But it was like dozens and dozens of episodes.
But to totally take away all the controversy or any of the
D'Elia, they got rid of D'Elia too. By the way, they took off D'Elia's episodes.
What is going on with Chris D'Elia? I know he was accused. Was he accused straight up of rape, of sexual assault, or is it other Me Too type stories?
It's from my understanding, he was.
You don't have to give me like the full rundown, because I know it's hard to
sounds
keep
like
up with
that.
all these trials and
It sounds like
tribulations.
he just
of
was
people.
messaging girls through Twitter and Instagram, just like my opinion, he was just fucking his fan base, right? And some of the girls were, 20, 19. So I guess some of the girls were younger, and younger girls messaged him, and then he was like, "No, you're young, but email me when you're older." And so some of these older girls were messaging him back, and then they would like come to his hotel room at night, and then he'd like whip his dick out, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're not here for this," and it's like, okay. And so people were uncomfortable, but it wasn't just like one or two. There was like many girls he was texting and talking to, and this was, to be fair, several years ago, because now he's got a kid and a wife. And in the last couple of years, is like he's not like
but
that.
But fascinating to see him scratched from the transition when Rogan just moving to Spotify.
Right. I mean, like because he's persona non grata now.
I was gonna say, yeah, whatever expression you're gonna use, like untouchable,
and then
in the bad way.
And then
like,
one of his best friends, Brian
Poison.
Callen.
Brian
Callen has some issues going on.
Say, speaking of the Rogan universe, and Brian Callen, major one.
And again, it's like, his was, I guess, one woman. I shouldn't say one woman. There's one woman where she said he like forcibly raped her, and then there was other women that said he like forced himself on them, like he forced himself on some girl in Urban Outfitters or something like that. Some like just disgusting shit, right?
He's a network guy too. He's on the Goldbergs.
Actually, they just canceled his show. Unrelated, but Schooled. He was on Schooled.
I was gonna say he had a spin-off of the Goldbergs,
and then it just recently got canceled
because of that, right?
Not because of that. It was just not doing well, so it got canceled. And then this happened, and then he's not on The Fire and the Kid anymore, but he's now on another Patron, like you have to pay for it type thing.
Patreon.
I always say Patron like the fucking tequila. Patreon, which I just saw Fighter in the Rinks, and it's him behind a paywall. So if you want to see his stuff, it's behind a paywall now.
Fucking fascinating.
It's interesting, and he's.
But
not
we talked about Rogan transitioning or switching over to Spotify at one point. They're fucking just right at the beginning, scratching tons of episodes.
People and this it's just crazy.
This is the era now, like I mentioned in another episode, Kanye West releasing The Life of Pablo, then continually going in and altering his bridges and sounds and different elements of songs after it's been released. Like we're in that era now.
So I think you could argue though those being two different things, like a piece of art. Like, you know what I mean? Like art, like a movie, like George Lucas in Star Wars, always trying to improve Star Wars. I guess your collection of your works, though, like just like censoring your own works, right? Like it's a weird thing. It's like,
it isn't. It's not that weird. It's like, when did this come out? What was the art?
That's my question.
If you lose it, then you're losing touch with what was going on at that point.
Right. So is this a decision by Spotify saying we want you to lose this? Or did Joe Rogan sign up saying I will get rid of these episodes for you? Or the third option, did Spotify just not put them on and Joe Rogan had no idea? All three of those scenarios have a lot of implications. Because either Joe Rogan sold himself out, right, and is willing to sell himself out, right? Or they fucked him and he didn't know, right, which is another thing, and now he's got to worry about that. Or three, he's like
A, B, or three.
Yeah, A, B, or three. I'm sorry, A, B. But you know what I'm saying? There's implications, a lot of implications for this.
There is. Have you ever watched or listened to a podcast on Spotify, by the way?
No.
I just did today for the first time.
I don't own Spotify. I don't have Spotify.
Released. Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
I've used it. I've had like the premium, whatever. But I checked it out today for the first time. And the only comment I'll make is, I didn't realize this, but now there is a perfect union of the audio and video elements. So when you like listen to something through a streaming service, Apple Music or Spotify, sometimes they'll play music video clips in the background. It's not just the song you're listening to. Now with Spotify doing video podcasts, it's just like YouTube. They're just showing the video with the audio along with it, and you can lock your phone, put it away, open your phone, the video's right there. It's a stronger union between the video and the audio content, which I think is interesting implication for podcast long term. This is a purely video podcast.
Yeah. How about an alternative to YouTube, right? Like that can position themselves as an alternative to YouTube.
100%. Yeah. I mean, in industries that do well, there's this not only a competitive advantage, but some sort of moat where you like can't get in that shit. Obviously, stuff like Vimeo has proved you can get in the game. You can have your own YouTube type thing.
Vimeo specifically for like production reels, and don't they have like a niche that they're going for?
It became that because they needed
Daily
that.
Motion, and like there's certain things that these streaming sites try to target certain avenues or lanes, right?
Well, if you can't be the biggest, you have to serve a function, I think, in the marketplace. You have to sort of niche yourself in some way.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think that it's going to sort of change the podcast game a little, because now when you're listening, when you're watching a podcast, there's no difference.
No.
You're hitting play, same player, same app, Obviously, everyone's hardware is going to be sophisticated enough now to have the data to be able to send this to your car, to your walk with your dog, like this cute little Zesicle over here.
Zesicle, that's really cute. You hear that little giggle? Like a Zesicle. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's we're talking about the golden age of podcasting.
It was a vote for visual and video podcasts, from what I was seeing for the first day of the Rogan transition.
5 hours too.
I didn't watch that one though.
No way, I couldn't. I didn't yet, but like 5 hours, like.
Well, that was his last non-Spotify one, right?
No, that was the first of his September 1st one he released.
Oh, was it?
Was Duncan Trussell, 5 hours. And everyone was like, who's going to be his first guest? And Trussell was mad because nobody guessed him. Everyone guessed everybody else under the sun but Trussell. And of course, and he was like, no, and 5 fucking hours, and they do like mushrooms, and they fucking smoke weed. And
did he do mushrooms again?
I think he does mushrooms and stuff like that.
He did mushrooms with Post Malone,
right?
Yeah,
which is cool. Family friend Post Malone. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say you've told me friend of friend type stories from Post Malone. When I was listening to that, it was interesting when he talked about his New York roots and whatnot. Yeah. To hear like, oh, this guy is a real person. It
is a real person, and he used to live. You know, he played with my fiance at one point when they were kids. Right. Super weird.
Oh, Randy and him were buzzed too.
Yeah, like when they were young, because like. His mom.
You said the A side of his first album was about her, right?
Yeah. I like to pretend like, in parallel universes, like they still remain friends, and he never got successful, but they are married somewhere, Yeah. Just in parallel universes.
Well, parallel universe, you're Post Malone. How about that?
Oh, that's cool.
That's this. Why put this in ball in his court?
I guess his mother and Randy's mother are like best friends because their mothers were best friends because they grew up together. So they've been like friends for like generations, and then of course it skipped Randy and Post Malone. But,
Well, life is long, man. Life is very long.
You never know, right? You never know. But yeah, it's interesting that he's like, Rogan's so willing to take risks like that, like do mushrooms and all that stuff. But then you're gonna censor yourself and like not put all of these,
it seems like kind of bullshit.
Very important alt-right people. Like, I don't agree with probably 90% of the shit they say, but like the saying goes, I would fight for the death for the right to say their bullshit, right? Like. Right. For you to censor them, you're just proving their point, right?
It's
how there is no platform for alt-right people, and then it makes them like, oh my god, look at this, they're censoring us. You're just proving them right.
And I think the long-term format is the perfect place to actually get into these type of political discussions where you can scratch the surface and you can allow someone to even take away from their own argument because it doesn't have enough legs to stand on, right? It's more about the talking point or like the way you turn around maybe a liberal talking point against them.
Man,
it's less about
you could talk in talking points for 5-10 minutes, but you sit down with Joe Rogan for 3 hours, you either know your shit or you look like an idiot, right? Like you can't.
Either way, you're going to get some good protein and hemp coffee recommendations.
Right. You're going to get a secondhand high that's like you've never had, But like, you either come in there and you know your shit and it's cool and it's a great interview, or you come in there and you're kind of a fucking clown and you've made a fool of yourself,
And at the very least, you're able to see the techniques for how someone could sustain a life maybe beyond or based on conservatism, It's like, oh, wow, this person did just sit in the room for 3 hours and they did hold their ground, even though it feels like this is ground built upon bullshit.
Sand. Yeah.
It's a structure that's built, even though I think the sands of time will wash this away.
Right, but it's worth hearing it, man. It's worth hearing it. It's worth giving people like a platform. And then, there's articles that like, Joe Rogan's biggest flaw is the fact that he is giving these people that don't deserve a platform. And, he's I
think that's bullshit. I think that's how he got famous in the first place.
I think so too.
And that's why we're going to have Ben Shapiro on next week with... I don't know, Stephen Molyneux or Owen Benjamin. I'm trying to remember the names on this list.
Owen Benjamin, there's another one, right? Or the new kid with the drum kid. He's going to be Mitch McConnell's new lackey now. The kid that was with the drum, remember that thing?
I don't know, what the fuck are you talking about?
Back in when the kids with the MAGA hats on those national monuments and they were just hanging out.
Oh, the kid with the drum, yeah.
And the indigenous people came up and they were drumming in the kid's face. The kid, sued
the
CNN. The
MAGA hat kid.
Yes, he got like $100-some-odd million from CNN. And now he's going to be a work for Mitch McConnell and his, in his group.
I mean, they have him at the RNC, so they're trying to get as much fodder out of this young man.
He's going to be a poster boy for them now. Now he's going to be working, so he'll be a visual face.
Poster man.
Them. Yeah.
Poster man.
It's
ridiculous. Let's not go to the RNC.
No. He was an example of, right?
It's too fucking easy.
It is.
Do you have any last like summer stuff that you have to get out? You have to do?
Not particularly.
I got to go to the beach. I haven't been. I
sure.
haven't been to Lake Michigan once this
Good.
summer, which is sad.
We went to
Mainly
the zoo already.
Corona paranoia.
Yeah,
but-
that's the thing, Nico. I don't really want to go anywhere. You know,
Sucks.
I don't want to go anywhere. I have real issues with that. And again, with the waving, people just like me these last couple of days.
You're making aggressive eye contact to people on the street here. We
You want to talk about conservatism? Yeah, no, not really, nothing. Corona's too scary for me to really want to go places with my kids or my family right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Did you start school, or did the kids start school?
Oh, yeah, man.
What's the story there?
Remote learning is in full swing, and it's...
My mom works for CPS, so I get to hear through her what's going on. She's back at work.
How does she feel about it as administrator educator?
She's a clerk, so she had to go in earlier than most, and I know that the teachers union is fighting right now for whether or not those positions need to be in the school
At that time.
My mom is like, she loves the school, and she loves the community.
Absolutely.
And she wants everything to run well.
Yeah.
And frankly, even if she wasn't in the office, she'd be working at home or through email on her laptop, whatever.
Yeah.
So she's not like strong one way or the other. Although I will say she's given me her opinion on like first-time kindergartners going to school, and she's kind of convinced me that parents, if you're in a position like whether you should send your kid to school, you shouldn't do it, because a lot of times that first year of school, it's about socialization, right? It's about sharing and playing.
Yes, yep.
And if you can't touch anything, you can't touch other people's things. You have to keep your distance. It's almost worse to imprint this horrible situation and this horrible setup onto a 5-year-old for the first time, when you could maybe just delay their first imprinting to their 6 years old and have the sharing and whatnot post-vaccine.
I don't know if you could tell, but my posture changed when I got up, because this is a very
Let's keep it loose in discussion about it. It's kind of
it's important. It's an important thing.
No
But
easy answers at this point. It's nothing's obvious.
No,
We're at the very beginning of September still, so
I'm just hoping that eventually October, November, we could go back to school. But again, if there's another wave, it's unlikely that they're going to go back to school this year.
Right.
And she's and my daughter is she's so smart, man. It's been 3 days, 4 days, and she's just flicking through Zoom calls, and she's just very able, and you compare it and listen, you can hear other kids, and some kids just aren't getting it, and she's just like flick boom boom boom, right in the Zoom call, and she's really good at it. But it's she's at home, she's not at school, so she's easily distracted like any first grader would be, right?
Yeah.
So she's coming out for a snack, and she's got to go to the bathroom, and she just doesn't want to participate, so she's like, I feel sick, so she's gonna lay on the couch, and it's like, and the teachers are very understanding, because you're dealing with first graders, you're not dealing with like adults. They're first graders you're spending 7-8 hours 6 hours a day on an iPad, right? Like, and I'm just lucky that like I'm home right now, because there's kids right now where I'm worried that they're maybe just by themselves, or they don't have the access to like help or parents.
Right.
The long-term effects of what this year is going to do to our country will reverberate for decades.
The whole world, obviously, our country being in a
I'm self-centered, I think.
political place of prominence for the world, world's largest economy, a lot of things. And we talk from an American perspective. I'm not trying to single that out, but it is a worldwide phenomenon.
Fuck yeah.
And I would imagine that you're mentioning your kid even having access to Zoom and to some technologies that people in other places like don't even have. Even other people in the city of Chicago.
I saw these two girls sitting outside of Taco Bell. A picture of them at Taco Bell, because they had to get free Wi-Fi from Taco Bell because they couldn't have internet. So they're sitting by themselves doing homework in a parking lot at Taco Bell. Like, what the fuck? That's America. That's in America. It's not like this is some third world country. You know what I mean? Corona, if it's done one thing, it's really exposed how shitty this country is and how crappy our infrastructure is. I was talking
Tell that to the stock market.
Yeah, right. Oh, but they don't care. Like, they don't care. Like, they don't. It's not really the companies that are in the stock market. Like, it's not really affecting them. It's affecting like mom and pops.
Yeah, but they're American companies like Facebook, Google.
Yeah, right.
Cupertino's, Apple.
Right, but they're not paying taxes anyway.
Tesla.
So they're just, you know what I mean? It's just all this money is going from the middle up to the top, and it's just staying there, right? It's not. There's no. That's the thing. They're gonna bleed the middle dry, and then what are you gonna do? There's no more wealth to take from the middle class. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I think that just it's exposed so many flaws in America, and no other country is dealing it with like us. Like, it seems like that there's the level that we're dealing with it. I guess Brazil, and there's some South American countries that are a little not great, but like
the U.S. has been paying for its individual attitude, its idea about freedom. It's pretty crazy because obviously this whole thing ended up getting drawn out much longer than it could have because we wanted so dearly to hold on to the notion of freedom.
Absolutely. That's a problem, right? We're so busy being individualistic, we cannot come together for the group, right? We think so much as an individual. When the group needs something, we say, fuck you. You know, you're trying to impinge on my rights, right? When a lot of, I think, other countries are able to, like, gather together around a common goal and just be, like, you know, together about it. We're so individualistic. We're so, you know...
I want the fucking test. I just want to be able to buy tests, even if they're, like, expensive. If they're, like, $20 per corona test.
Isn't there, like, antibody tests where you can take antibody
Yeah, but they're
tests?
supposed to be dog shit still, aren't they? They're supposed to be terrible. I want to do it just so, like, me and you, if we met up, if I could buy one of those Abbott Lab tests, I could burn $20, but we could sit in the studio again, you know?
Randy.
The second half of this podcast is going to be half a Cicada album, you know, being the end of summer in Chicago, you know?
The Randy showed me this really interesting article about this doctor who said the best way to treat coronavirus, and it was with massive, widespread testing everywhere. Like simple, like spit tests, where like if you want to go into Burger King, spit test. Okay, you got it. Go home, quarantine.
I heard that
You
even
go into-
shitty tests with
Yes.
false positives, it's
Right,
like just
go
to be
home,
doing more
quarantine.
tests. It's important. Yeah.
The more quarantining we do, the more we're taking those people out of the population that are sick, the less will spread. So anywhere you want to go, it's just testing, right?
Yeah.
So that we can start weeding some of these people out, right?
I'm gonna start doing a corona test where you have to like smell a rag that I've like rubbed against my armpit to see like, do you smell BO on this? Or I'll take like coffee beans and put them in a cup and poke aluminum foil like in poke holes in aluminum foil in the cup, and you have to like tell me what's in the cup just by smell.
Right. I like that. It's not like an actual like antibody. It's just like, do you have a sense of smell? Yes or no. You know, my brother, he went back to college and he's dealing with it in a big way.
Is he?
Yeah. His I don't know if he's gonna listen, but you know, his roommate is really sick with it. And
His roommate is sick with coronavirus?
and he's
Jesus.
He's
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's got a couple of friends, really good close friends that have it, and
Oh, Lord.
yeah, it kind of ripped through his school, so he's pretty nervous right now, and you know, I'm like nervous for him, and
Nervous that he's gonna get it and then he's gonna be sick with it?
yeah, I mean,
Is he sharing a living space?
Well,
You're saying his roommate? Because
so
80% of the people in the household get corona when someone else gets it. I've heard something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like
yeah,
not a dice roll. It's like you're getting it.
it's
Or
a good
or
chance.
coin toss,
it's
rather.
a good chance. I'm upset because like, and I don't want to be like, I told you so. But like, we had the conversation before he left, you know, and I'm just like, this is what's gonna happen. You know, this is exactly what was gonna happen. But you know, you're your age, and you want, you know, you're young, and you want to experience what you want to experience, and I fucking get that, and I know it's not fair, but like, I don't know if you're making the right decision. But
What's the inside info? Does he know how his roommate got it? Is there like a strict chain?
I mean, it's a bunch of fucking college kids, sophomore year college kids, partying, and you know, one kid gets it and it just spread.
Yeah.
You're at a house party, you know, no one's there telling you wear masks because you don't give a fuck because you're 20. And
Do you know if he's been going to parties that are like?
I don't know. I
Okay.
do not know for a fact, but I think that the likelihood is that, you know, that's what happens, right? And it just spreads with all these kids, and I'm sure they're not wearing masks. I'm sure they're not playing 6 feet apart. I'm sure it's just, you know, it's just anything goes. You know, you saw those pictures in Georgia
It's scary.
of just the hallways in high schools and just people just walking through with no masks and just on top of each other, you know. But this is what it is. And then you have people that say it's not a big deal, and so it's okay, it's not a big deal, and then, you know, it spreads super fast, right?
Right.
But it's like, I don't know, I'm trying not to be worried. I'm trying just to be like, it's okay, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And,
I mean
like,
you can only worry so much.
because, you know, like, I'm taking solace in the fact that you know, most people his age do get over it and it's not so bad, but like, you don't know. You don't fucking know.
No, you don't. You don't. And you even just have to go through it or whatever. Does he looked into getting an antibody test?
Yeah, I think he's gonna get a test in the next couple of days, and we're gonna figure out what the agenda is. But I mean, if he's got it, he's got to stay. He can't come back, you know. But if he's negative, and he's coming back right away, because
Oh really?
well, if he's negative, if he gets a test and he's negative,
He's gonna get the fuck out.
I'm pushing hard for it in my family.
Shit.
You know, I don't want him there anymore. I mean, I love him, I respect him, and I want him to grow as a human, but I don't want to fucking him in a situation where he's in potentially mortal peril.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just not worth the risk to me.
No, that's pretty close for comfort.
I know that there's some people who would, call me a sheep or a fucking wimp or whatever, and I don't care. Like, I don't care,
No.
I'd rather my brother alive, not with COVID, than like worry about being a sheep or the pandemic or all this shit.
That's fucking ridiculous. I don't even like want to entertain that, because to me that's just that's like short-term political talk that will not stand the test of time.
Exactly.
The only way I'm looking at it is whether you have like the economic means to ride out this storm. That's the way I'm seeing it, is whether you have the luxury of being able to
Which I don't
pull
know.
out,
Yeah.
go home, do this, do that, quit your job, leave your job, because that seems to be the crux of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is whether or not
Imagine
you're
if they
getting,
gave $2 trillion to like regular people and not giant corporations. How many small businesses would just still stay afloat and still be around, and people wouldn't be worried about going and like going back to work, because hey, I got $3,000 this month. I can pay my rent for my place of business. I can pay my bills and my insurance, and I feel safe. Yeah, it sucks that I'm inside, but I have spending money. I feel safe and secure in my financials. You know what I'm saying?
we should talk about something besides Corona.
Yeah,
Because otherwise
yeah.
we're gonna do politics and then Corona.
It's
the
just
whole
like
time.
it's a
No, it's totally,
self-defeating,
it's just how it is. Yeah,
it works.
But what do you think? Like, what occupies your mind besides the election and Corona right now? It's so funny to even think like, what the
man.
fuck is the third thing in your life?
Or what
and
is the
and
third
everyone's
thing?
life,
Yeah.
from
Kids. I mean,
2020 American perspective.
my kids,
Kids
right?
in school, yeah.
Kids. I'm a culture junkie. I'm obsessed with culture, so that's a lot in my mind. Fucking recently with Chadwick Boseman dying. That was pretty
That's
fucking
sad.
horrible.
Unbelievable.
I don't want to get into it too much because I'm totally gonna get emotional and get really weird about it. But like, Black Panther was an incredible movie.
Yeah.
It was earth shattering as far as I'm concerned. There's how many? I mean.
No,
as
it's
an
not. It's not fair too. Like,
how talented he was, how much he did in such a short time under the situation he was under, which nobody knew about.
Yeah.
What an icon he was for the black community.
The black communities, Kobe Bryant dying earlier this year. Obviously, Chadwick. We've talked about other stuff in other podcasts, like for Black Lives Matter, and we talked about Jacob, and we've mentioned people, Breonna Taylor, and we've brought up different names before. It's like, how can this year get worse? And we don't have to go down this either, because this is like, I guess this should be the other thing. It's like
predict how bad things
talking
get.
about the election, Corona, and then like racial injustice. That's kind of been like the third vein of like what's happening.
Yeah, Corona and craziness, man. It's like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean?
It's been feeling like that.
And then it's just one more gut punch.
Yeah.
Where it's just people that just don't deserve it. People like heroes. He's the hero for many, many, many people.
No, a lot of people are drawing the biblical parallels, and like now we're
Black
like
excellence,
losing
black
our
royalty.
gods in this like biblical
dude.
mindset. Like, he's like a god, being a superhero. It's like we're losing a living legend.
Losing Kobe, who was literally a fucking
He's a basketball
good
god.
lord,
Right?
good lord. Icons,
Yeah.
icons.
Yeah.
Icons for a community that doesn't have icons to lose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I don't know, man. It's just, how much more can people take?
It feels very, very unfair.
How many more rocks? How many more boulders can people be on? You ever, what is it? Giles Corey in the Crucible. It's one of my favorite plays by Arthur Miller.
I'm lost.
And
I don't know Giles'
the Crucible.
character. I've heard of the.
Yeah. He's
I
the
know
character
Arthur
that they say he's a bad guy, right? And he's a witch, but he's not doing it, so they crush him, right? They crush him, and he says more weight, and they're like, admit that you're a witch. He says more fucking weight, and he's like, admit you're a witch, and he's like, more weight, and he just says, bring it on. I'm not gonna admit that I'm a fucking whatever. I'm not gonna succumb. So eventually they crush him to death. But that always stuck with me. More weight. That guy, he didn't back down, stuck to his principles, but he's fucking dead. But the thing is, how much more weight? How many more boulders can we take on us?
Well, unfortunately, I think the one thing humans can do is and better than anything any species is adjust. One of the few species to live on all 7 continents. We have to look at previous generations who have adjusted to wars and weird rationing. Occasionally we're going without paper towel and Lysol, but it's not like we're going without
Right.
tin or something.
Things are relative, right? It's not like it's doom and gloom. Look at what we're doing right now.
I just pointed
You
that
know?
out because it's fucked up because humans can go through a lot. And a lot of people believe, I know, that if we have an autocratic government, if we could become clamped down on. We could have some big brother shit.
Absolutely.
People think that about the left. People think Trump's an autocrat on the right. Like, people are worried that we could survive and will have to go through other elements of frustration and other constricting moments.
Isn't that what happens when like things go bad? People look to like the strong man to like protect them and protection and all that stuff. Like when you're really worried and things are on fire, you go for the person that's, even if you don't like them, you think that they can protect you, right?
Yeah.
And that's that's human nature, like you said. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, and so I have to say quickly, if there's a second wave, I can't help but think that like it's going to help Trump's chances as much as you'd think like, oh, he's causing this second wave. I think it will just scare people.
I think it depends on the messaging. It depends on the messaging.
Scare people into
depending on how much he
the status quo.
puts his foot in his mouth, how many more, if it jumps like several, tens of thousands of deaths in a couple months. Like if people start to like noticing their neighbors dropping, and then you can kind of pin it back to, well, remember when it was going to disappear in April? It's all about messaging. I think
Do you have any peers that got coronavirus? Like, do you have good friends or? We haven't had family.
Yeah, we haven't had any family yet. Actually, well,
we don't have to talk about it, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But do you have a lot of contemporaries or examples of people?
Not specifically, not super duper. I know that there were some family friends that had gotten it that had recovered. Like I said, my brother's has friends now and people that I know through him that have gotten it. So it's not like, I know that people, near my grandma, they had it. Like it's like circling the wagons. It's like I feel like
nowhere near herd immunity level, probably, right?
No.
50%,
Herd immunity.
50% of our proximate locations.
It's so bullshit.
I'm gonna check the other camera quickly, just the iPhone one, because that one's been shutting off on me.
I got you. I can quickly talk about something. Give me a topic. I'll riff on it.
Can I just give you a prompt? Can we do
go ahead. Yeah.
Topic time.
Come on.
So we can't do Corona. We can't do the election. We mentioned racial injustice, Black Lives Matter.
No more of that.
I'm gonna give you something specifically that's a niche topic, if I can. Okay. I want you to forecast a holiday toy craze that will occur for Christmas this year.
Okay. I got you. It's going to be the new Talk Boy. You remember Home Alone? He had the Talk Boy, and he would, like, record it, and then he would, like, play it. It's going to be some shit like that, right? Where, like, kids can record themselves, like, really easily to be on, like, YouTube and all this shit, because that's where it's going. It's like,
I like that.
Kids and TikTok recording. But it's, like, something that, as a parent, you could, like, monitor it and, like, control it, But it's going to be like a Talk Boy.
I like that a lot. I mean, that can just plug in, via lightning port in the bottom of your iPhone,
Absolutely. Right.
Can easily integrate. I just saw that they were, of course, they're advertising this to me based on the type of shit that I look up and do, but they were advertising on my Instagram, like a light setup for just home teleconferencing, just for being on Zoom to your office. They had like a tripod on a light.
Lights, and then the circular light, so it like brightens your eyes.
But all the audio... visual stuff, that's very astute. I do think that whole wave of convenience is coming.
I mean, that's what we're leaning more into it more than ever with Zoom and this attachment, and you know what I mean? Like, think about my daughter and like her school right now. It's all through Zoom. So how is she gonna know to interact with her friends when we become more socialized? It's gonna be through video and stuff like that, right? So it's just making that more accessible to kids and kind of riding that wave, and and then giving parents a modicum of control over it, so that they feel more inclined to buy that product, so they can be like, oh, I can kind of control it, and blah, blah, blah.
You did a youthful gift, like a young person's gift. I'll do an older person's thing. I'll say essential oil diffusers are going to be gigantic for anyone over 20 years old.
That's not bad.
There's going to be some article written where lavender ends up helping your chances of surviving coronavirus, and now everyone's houses are going to smell like lavender.
I believe it. I believe it.
All the bubbles across America are going to be lavendered up.
It's going to be something like that. We're looking for.
I was trying to catch the brand of the plane.
The make and model.
Not like Boeing, but like it's United or something.
United, Delta.
Hey, I'll say, I talked about this before. I live by O'Hare. Fuck ton of planes, man.
A lot of planes.
Been hearing a lot of planes lately.
Here you go. Here's a fun topic. We can get on this. Did you see recently about the airline pilots that saw the guy in the jetpack at like 3,000 feet?
No.
Over LAX?
For real?
Swear to God. 2 pilots saw him. 2 pilots from 2 different planes, and then the 2 pilots in one plane saw him. But then 2 different planes.
Was he on like a
saw him.
Rocket Man jetpack, or did he have one of those Aqua jetpacks?
Nobody has. Well, that's the thing. So like,
because if he's by the coast, it's possible, right?
No, it's not. Because he was at 30,000, or she was at like 3,004. It's like some incredibly high height.
That'd be a lot of steam.
Where you're at altitude. Like you're at altitude. It's not like you're just like hang gliding. Like you're at altitude.
That's not easy.
Which so the FAA is like, what? So they're trying to investigate this because it's like fucking Iron Man. Some random dude is in a jetpack in fucking out there, right? Which just ties back to one of the topics I really wanted to talk about was like UFOs, because that's the conspiracy theory.
Oh shit, let's do that.
That I love.
Let's do that.
And I think that's more hopeful and weird and kind of,
It's getting dark too, so I feel like
we might be able to see something.
Any of the NSA tracking shit that's getting us from space, it's a little too dark for them to actually
like
read our lips at this point.
Our faces.
It's just going to be the content we upload to YouTube.
But let's be honest, these UFOs can sense our energies and that we're talking about them, so we're going to use our energies to channel their activity to focus on us anyways. So.
Actually, I found that the UFOs that track me are sensing my body and beard heat. The heat radiating off my facial
They just
hair.
have like, infrared scanners and all that stuff. I think it's super interesting and weird. And, Rogan is leading the charge on it, which I think is crazy. I've always...
He's leaning into it. He's enjoying whipping up some...
Well, he's always been a UFO guy, but he's like, it's bullshit. I haven't had any proof. Yeah. But then he started to get people on there that had a little bit more factual knowledge, and he started to be like, oh shit, maybe there is some stuff. And then you see that there's, man, so that's the one conspiracy that I've loved since I was a kid, that I've always like leaned into, that have been, aliens, UFOs, or I should call them by the new terminology, UPAs, Unidentified Arial Phenomenon. That's what Unidentified Arial Phenomenon. UAPs. Sorry, I'm your acronym guy. I had to get it correct. UAPs are what they're called now.
I appreciate that.
Because they don't want to call them UFOs because of stigma, right? Talking language, framing. The term UFO has a stigma. You don't want to say, I have a UFO, I believe in UFOs. Government, you can't have UFOs and government shit. Like, nobody will take it seriously. But if you change the acronym to Unidentified Arial Phenomenon, then you frame that a little differently and people will buy into that.
Hey, we know the marketing of it all is very important, right?
Absolutely. Long story short,
you are the jetpack guy.
I'm the jetpack.
That was above LAX.
I wish I was
at
the jetpack
30,000
guy.
feet.
You know what?
Your childhood desires.
You know what? Not anymore. I used to wish like really hard as I could to be like off planet, but the older I get, the more I'm like, it's like my roots are stuck in the ground, and like the idea of me leaving off planet is like daunting as shit. Like, no way do I want to leave Earth. Earth is great.
I got that people's gas bill due next week. It'd be just silly time to leave at this point.
I can't do it anymore. The idea of like going to space, it's just I've thought about it too much. It freaks me out.
I never gave a shit about the UFO thing.
Really?
I just grew up watching The Simpsons where they're like making fun of UFO people as
Ken
UFOs.
and Coda.
Lisa bought that book, and the button gets pressed, and it's like, it gets to Washington or someone like, oh my god, this has been purchased.
The great episode where Mr. Burns is the alien with the X-Files, and he's the alien. That's one of my favorite episodes. Spock's in at the X-Files, right? And it's just Mr. Burns fucking tripping balls, right?
That is great, yeah. They give him the drug, he's radiating.
Yeah, that was the thing.
I was always like, I just soaked up too much of that culture that made fun of it.
Right.
That just, made it seem like it was ridiculous.
Right.
So I feel like I had no ability to ever take it seriously from a very young age.
I lost the ability to take it seriously, and then I gained it again, right? Like, I kind of like started shying away from conspiracies, in my mid to late 20s, where I was like,
As one does.
Yeah, right. As one does. I mean, it's not everything is connected. It's like it's just impossible. There's too many moving parts for there to be this like secret cabal of Rothschilds, ruling the world. Like, come on. Like, I'm sure there's a group of people that are really rich that want to keep being rich, but like, I don't know. Anyways, the UFO conspiracy thing I think is super interesting. I think that you're seeing more what they call government disclosure, which is the real issue right now, is that the government's coming out and releasing information, which they were always very hush-hush about, right? But in the last year... Is that Zoe again? Oh, man. Zoe was like, scared me. I was like, whoa. This
is a great example, though, because my dog is walking through the yard, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
It's a dog.
It's the dog. You're just looking at...
it's...
Dude, I don't know.
Disclosure.
Especially with the cameras that are out there now, like, isn't it... At that point where there are just so many people that are recording, that are
TikTok?
capturing.
Well, that's what the thing is. Did you see the video of the gimbal and the TikTok video?
No,
and all this stuff?
You have to talk to me like I am someone who has zero headlines about UFOs.
So like the big thing
I'm
that
going to
came
turn
out.
these cameras off just because they're too dark.
Sure,
by the way,
no
so
problem.
keep on going. Which, speaking of audio-visual technology failing us, or failing the ability to discern a UFO or not.
Don't you have night vision?
Or
right.
UAP or whatever the hell.
UAPs is the correct terminology right now. Okay, so and I think it was in 2017, like June of 2017, the U.S. Department of Navy released these like 3 videos, and they were taking off in a couple of different locations, and it was basically these F-15s, and I'm gonna mangle some of this, and somebody's gonna be like, actually, it was F-16s, and blah 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 blah. Just go watch the fucking Rogan episode, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
This whole podcast, you just have to watch Joe Rogan's entire discography.
No, you don't. Don't watch all of it because some of it's just trash. But like, the UFO episodes are fucking cool. There's a Netflix documentary about this guy Bob Lazar, and he's a guy from the 80s, and he was a guy that saw these vehicles, whatever. They took him to briefed him on this stuff. He was this really smart guy who came up with like a jet propulsion car, and they wanted to see if he could reverse engineer these craft. Right? He was sworn to secrecy, but he didn't keep the secret. And he was shown all this stuff, and he came out with it, and he told everybody about this stuff, and everyone called bullshit. But as the years went on, more and more of the things he said came true. And more of the things that he was talking about were not, in fact, bullshit, right? And you find out that there was a concerted government effort to, like, kind of erase him. Not kill him, because then he'd become a martyr, but erase him from history.
Sure.
And which is true.
Actually, isn't the more prominent strategy outside of just erasing someone, scratching the record, is confusing the message?
Yes.
Like making him seem crazy.
Discrediting
the Simpsons
him completely.
joke where they just spray whiskey on Homer and they say, no one's going to believe this story.
Guy, yes, exactly.
Which is very Trumpian, of the Trump age, where you like obscure lies.
I mean,
just
that's
with pure sound.
The government's
fury.
been doing that forever, right? It's not just a Trump phenomenon. The government's doing that forever, but it had a very specific people that it would target, right? When it's an individual versus a group of people, right? Bob Lazar was specifically targeted to make him look like a crackpot, like he was crazy, and then systematically took away his credentials, that he wasn't a professor at these locations and all this stuff, and they were like, we have no record, and then they found like a phone book from when he worked there, and his name was in the phone book.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard all this stuff.
Let's not go too deep
on the rabbit hole. So anyways, some of the details that he talked about were true. And then you find out in 2018 they released these videos of these weird craft that were moving faster than they should, performing maneuvers in air that are not things that we don't. Our aircraft are not capable of doing this. So either what they're saying is either another country made a giant technological leap that we just have not done yet, or it's extra, it's something different.
Or we need to make a technological leap with AV tracking equipment.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. So these F-15s on these videos have the most sophisticated tracking devices. These are military tracking devices that are meant to track like airplanes and like things that are moving super fast, and it's very hard to track these things. So Commander Fravor is the pilot that saw this, right? Like he's a pilot, and he's like, I saw it. Like you can try to talk to me about whatever you want to talk, but I saw this thing. It's completely unexplained. It matched speeds with me, and then it was mirroring me and what I was doing, and then it took off, right? Like that's the thing, right? That's what it's doing. So they released these videos, and then I listened to the interview with him, and he talked about how like once he kind of admitted it and came out with it, more military people started telling him other stories. They're like, I don't want people to know who I am. I just want to tell somebody my crazy stories.
You spend your whole life in the military, though. You're gonna have some stories like that.
Sure, but I think the thing is that he's not.
What else is there besides like what happened at work? Office stories.
Yeah, right.
I heard the old CEO before we used to work. He was crazy.
Well, when you talk about nuclear submarines and nuclear missiles getting sucked underwater from mysterious craft that are potentially underwater, But like again, like. Right. So you either want to believe it or don't. But see, the thing about this guy is he's like, I didn't believe. I was a firm non-believer until in an aircraft I saw something that I cannot explain.
Right.
And he cannot explain it, and he's been around for many, many years. So now he's like, this is the thing I saw. I want to understand it. So on top of all this, you have Marco Rubio, right? Marco Rubio, the senator, right?
How is he involved?
So he is actually the top dog in this committee that they've just released. So back in the day, Henry Reid, the former Senate committee.
Dude, you are fucking deep as hell. You're giving me name after name on this shit.
Dude, this is my jam. UFOs, this is my jam. And now I'm in a situation.
But make it accessible for me. Help me. Because like,
that's the thing, though. That's the thing. It's so hard. It's so hard.
I don't know the names.
Okay.
I don't know the history.
I'm trying to.
No. I know. And you actually, the sequential nature,
The narrative.
is important, right?
Right.
But if you were going to have this conversation with someone who's a non-believer whatsoever, outside of the personal accounts, do you have any...
Well, that's where I was getting to. So
Okay,
now
I'm sorry.
the military is involved. So Senator Reid came up with this program when he was the senator that was there to monitor these UAPs. They didn't want to call them UFOs, but he was friends with this guy, George Knapp, who is a journalist, and Harry Reid has always been interested in UFOs. He's from Arizona, New Mexico, or I'm sorry, Nevada. And that's where, Area 51 was. So he was always very interested. So he started a government program with like $12 million to start this program. Well, when he left, they said the program disappeared, but it didn't. It still exists. It's under a new name. And Marco Rubio is the person who it reports to. And this committee...
And Marco Rubio reports to Tom DeLonge, right?
Yes.
So-
Well, Tom DeLonge is actually part of it too, because he actually got them to release metamaterials. So this man who was in charge of this agency, right? There's a man who was in charge of this agency. So when the agency fell apart, this is the guy who had them release these videos.
Dude, I just have to say this. I don't think people can keep secrets.
Well, that's what they're talking about. They,
Like, just straight up.
they
If like legitimate money's not on the line, which I think it is for some
Yes.
people. I think some people are in this.
Well, this goes back to where it's not in
some
the
way
government. The
financially.
government doesn't have these craft. These are all in private institutions. They have private companies that now own these things. So the deal is that.
What do you
was
mean,
it,
like
2 weeks ago?
Raytheon has the patent for this and that?
Yes,
or
they
what?
have these whatever these craft are. Like Lockheed Martin owns some
That
of
makes
them.
even less sense to me, though.
But why?
because-
Why? They have more security than the U.S. government. When you have to sign non-disclosure agreements and all this legalese, and you have billion-dollar companies that are in charge of Defense Department stuff anyways,
Yeah, but then
it's so compartmentalized right now that
Yeah,
there's
but then
no
there's
way.
like shithead nepotism where like some nephew comes in and he's not actually talented.
But that's not always the case,
He
though,
needs
in
a way
these-
to
in
shake
these
it up at
situations.
Raytheon, so he's got to spill some of the family secrets.
But
just it's been too long. Like, to me, just like
But I think again. This is a part of the problem when stuff does come out.
Yeah.
It's dismissed, right? You talk about muddying the waters. So throughout time, there's been like Bob Lazar was talking about this stuff, but he was dismissed. And now you talk about the things that he was talking about are coming true. Element 115 exists, and they said it doesn't exist.
but there's tons of new elements. Like the periodic table, they just keep
But
adding
he
to that.
described the specific element, and he knew what it was doing, and all this stuff when he talked about it 15 to 20 years
That's
before
chemistry to me, though. That's
Sure,
not.
but again, okay, that's fine, fair enough. But
Yeah.
he's, he describes the craft and what it does and all this stuff and the way it responds to gravity. And again, when you see these TikTok videos, and that's exactly.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Explain the TikTok connection.
I'm sorry, Tic Tac. It's a Tic Tac craft. It looks like a Tic Tac. It's this oblong
Wait,
craft.
what?
That, like if you watch these videos, it's an oblong craft that looks like a Tic Tac. It's like a cylindrical. It's not like a thing. It's like a Tic Tac,
Yeah.
and it like moves like this. And there's another thing. It's a gimbal. It's like 2 points and a thing like that, and it's like a gimbal and it moves. Like I saw the video and it's unexplainable, right? It's unexplainable.
Okay.
So what the article that came out in New York Times was like this. Agency exists. Marco Rubio says we need to understand it because there's unidentified craft that are hovering over our nuclear bases and they're turning off our nuclear weapons. This was written in the New York Times. Marco Rubio talked about it on TV multiple times.
Turning off our nuclear
Turning
weapons.
our
When was
nuclear
this
weapons
written in
on
the
again,
Times?
off again. This was recently, like literally, like within the last 2 months.
Okay.
So they're like, and it's like they're going over. And that's why it's harder to keep this under control because now we're seeing that it's like you can't. There's too much new evidence that's coming out, and the government can't like keep it as under wraps as it once was. And they're releasing it in weird ways where they're releasing little bits of information, then taking it back. Little bits of information. So the other big piece of this puzzle was that the Times had this article about the videos and the agency, and then a couple weeks later, the Department of the Navy, whatever, has admitted that we have off-world materials. They've recovered materials from off-world vehicles or something like that, was a direct quote. And Tom DeLonge talks about this because Tom DeLonge was involved with the guy that was in charge of the program before it defunct. So he saw the videos. So the guy saw the videos, was like, we need to release these videos from Freedom of Information Act because people need to see this. We have metamaterials that we've recovered from off-world. They're saying that some of these craft are older than, like, they were like archaeologist type stuff, like found craft buried underground, right? Not just stuff that's like new, but like old stuff, right? It's all very interesting. It's a conspiracy theory that I actually think has merit versus other conspiracy theories where I don't see any sort of like, you know what I mean? The cover-up, though, makes sense
I hate
so
to
much
say
more.
it, no, but I'm still a total fucking hater. I have no respect for any of the UFO stuff. I mean, even like the recent New York Times disclosure that there was, a Pentagon
agency. Yeah,
Pentagon mention of some sort of UFO. Like, to me, like that does so fucking little for me. For how many government reports are probably produced, and for how many, how many things do come out, it doesn't seem to hold that much weight.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the military budget. And I mean, Arizona's an important place, Area 51, whatever. Like, that place has got to be monitored to no end. And to me, I'm not seeing. I don't know. I just think this stuff is always like way harder than it seems, especially like keeping the thread together and keeping all the different players together in sequence.
It's not that hard. Once you start doing it, it's not hard. It's not like
without the leaps of faith, maybe.
But for me, I'm connecting the dots, right? I don't feel like it's leaps of faith. It's not like I'm like, oh, like this is all like disclosed by the government. It's not like this is some guy on YouTube telling me. I'm reading these articles in the New York Times.
But I would say about government agencies, I'm sure there's tons of stuff where they're like, yeah, we're fucking inept on this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what to say about this
absolutely.
when it comes to. They don't know how the financial system in the U.S. works. No, seriously.
Sure. No, yeah, you're right.
There are high frequency trading, and there's individual investors on Robinhood. There's gigantic mutual funds. There are different influences mashing in this gigantic system that is partially housed through IT technology, and also maybe is partially funneled through old technologies like stock tickers, right? Like, there's been a whole influence of how this system is sustained.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't know.
You don't know?
It just seems too.
What would it take for it to prove this to you? Is this like a God religious thing, or you need like an alien to show up in front of you and say "Klaatu Verata Nikto," or like what? No, I'm serious.
For
like,
sure.
So like, what's your element of proof? I've seen more proof of aliens than I've ever seen of God, or you know what I mean, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen more videos and more documentation.
I want a single photo video. No, I haven't seen anything.
So if I send you videos and stories, how about the thing in Phoenix, the Phoenix lights, where thousands of people saw the flying V's over their Phoenix, and it was reported by thousands of people that saw this. There's always
been unexplained things by a lot of people in a community, and whether or not it's a transformer that blew up down the road and made this insane pyro look.
We did see that on the way home from New York real quick. We were driving in a horrible storm, and it's in like 5 feet, and we're driving next to a forest, and from this forest we see this like wild green blue like electrical discharge, and me and Randy just are like, what the fuck was that? It was crazy, and I think it was like a transformer getting wet and exploding in the it had some power situation, but it was just this glowing like and then it just kind of faded. But anyways, unexplained shit happens all the time. I agree with that, and but I just feel like lately, like you said, technology is coming to a point where you can't hide things anymore. Things are there that you can't hide.
And the only way you can hide things is just with more noise, right? With
so if I
more
showed
data
you,
points.
so if we after the podcast I show you the Tic Tac and the gimbal videos, and you see this stuff, what more would you need to see than this? The fact that I mean, I know it's a government, so you can't really trust the government.
Here's the thing, man. I think it's a hell of a story. It's a hell of a story in that if there's something good, it gets out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some of the recent waves that have been made, but nothing that's even close to my threshold of being like, oh my God. Like, if some fucking government entity is like, yeah, we don't know what this is exactly, it's like, yeah, no shit. The only thing that's amazing here is that they fucking admit that they didn't know what it was.
But
not that there's something that it was unexplained by some.
That in of itself, like, they don't admit when they don't know something. The government doesn't. The military won't admit that we don't understand something. That makes them look weak. So the idea that they're admitting that they don't understand this, that to me is like, whoa, because never before have they been like okay, so why would this guy?
Not known for hubris. That's true.
Right. So why would Marco Rubio go on national TV on Face the Nation and talk about?
Because Marco Rubio needs to get his fucking name in the news.
That's true.
Because
100%.
After he lost his ass to Trump in 2016, he would fucking do anything, including pushing Tom DeLonge's alien theories, to get his ass out there again. We're bringing him up on our 35th podcast somehow.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I think he has no political consequence outside of what we're discussing right now. I mean, seriously.
No, I would agree. I don't really like Marco Rubio, but I appreciate that he's talking about this stuff.
But I think he's just like, damn, someone's got to get this name brand recognition. Someone's got to soak up these UFO
Be the UFO
points.
vote guy?
Hell yeah, man.
I don't know.
Hell fucking yeah.
But since when has that been even now you're talking
It
about
is now. It is now. And even we brought up Joe Rogan. I think he's getting some career points off this shit.
Absolutely.
You know, having Bob Lazar and various people on his show and
I
being
mean,
able
but
to
you just
tweet out.
listen to these people, but you listen to this, like, listen, if you listen to the Commander Fravor episode, which that was the episode that really flipped me, right? That was the episode where I was like, okay, I'm back on this track, right? Because I listened to the Bob Lazar one, I was like, this is fun. Like, this is fun and this is interesting, and I don't know how much this is true, but when you listen to a career military guy who fucking saw the thing and is like, I'm losing my livelihood by doing this, right? He's taking a huge risk as
Finished. It's funny. I ended up doing like an alien-esque.
I know, right? I was like, what the fuck is that? But, you know, like, I feel like for him to take this risk, you know, for him to come out here and willing to sacrifice his entire military career, a military guy, somebody who that's what they do, right? You don't do this unless, like, you've seen something that's completely earth-shattering to your brain.
This person could just as easily be
a
at
plant,
this point.
a CIA
No,
plant.
I was gonna say that's to me that's too designed.
That's the
I
thing.
think if anything, this
don't think
person
that works like
has
that.
been in the military his whole career, and he's like, I want something new, and I want to believe this other thing that has meaning, that's bigger than me, that's bigger than the budget of the United States military.
But what if you see a thing that makes you realize that that's out there, right?
This is where I guess we're getting into personal thresholds, because your personal threshold has been passed. You've seen enough to be enticed.
I've seen
or
too
to
many
believe.
videos.
I don't know if you believe, but I have not. I'm saying straight up, I have not seen enough. Like, my threshold hasn't been crossed yet.
Right. Well, so, okay, back to the question. What would so you want like clear video evidence, right? Clear video evidence.
I want. I also want some like a follow the money type thing, where I want some financial reason why this would be patched up. Because you could be selling alien T-shirts and alien Pepsi cans. And, I mean,
don't they do that? Isn't that Star Wars already, right? Like, you know. But,
no,
okay.
I think so it's just too damn expensive to keep anything a secret, and I think it's just a lot of times with stuff that gets lumped into conspiracy theories. I think we're living through this age now where everything seems so unintelligible, that we have such an impatient, small-minded, stupid president, and our culture is now fully fucking love it or hate it, and everything's being boiled down to these false, two-party dichotomies. Redundant. I think we want to believe that there is, in this Goldilocks region, where there are other Earths that sustain life on other planets, whatever, the thousands that there are, the number of examples that are in this Goldilocks zone. We want to believe that there's other people out there, there are other entities out there that have made strides in terms of intelligence. And I do think that is absolutely the case. But this whole selective entering at this point in history thing, it's fucking insane to me. Because if you look at the time period of history, the millions of years that humans have been evolving, all the way from different levels of...
well, you've seen Ancient Aliens. I mean, like, chariots
from
of
our
the
unicellular
gods.
roots to, hunter-gatherer stage, our agricultural revolution, everything we've been through, everything we've seen. To me, it's too narcissistic to think that it's that point in the Homo sapien movie now.
Well, okay, I see.
You
what
got
you're
Stonehenge,
saying.
right? You have these, maybe the pyramids. You have these elements throughout history where people say, oh, civilization has expanded before and then contracted and expanded and contracted. And hey, maybe there's even civilization on these other planets in these Goldilocks zones. But to me, it would just be too striking, me as a 31-year-old, to be like, hey, it's time for that part in the movie. 31 years of mortality, and now we got the aliens rolling in for the third decade.
I think it's cyclical. I think that people get interested
Fourth
in
decade.
it. And was it?
I'm actually in my fourth decade. I'm
Fourth
just pointing
decade?
out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I've had 3 decades
right,
already.
Yeah. We're in our 4th decade. Jesus Christ.
It's still no aliens. What the fuck? No, for me, but maybe.
Right. So my thinking is we're reaching a point where technology is finally, again, you can't hide them. When you have aircraft that are able to like see the other aircraft and like measure them and all this stuff, like, I don't know. I feel like I've like you said, I've gone on the rabbit hole. I've listened to people talk about things that I am like, okay, like people smarter than me, people disclosing things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I've seen videos. I've seen a lot of videos, a lot of stories. It's like, for me, it's like, at what point does it become true, right? Like, there's too many threads together, right? And to your point, I think throughout history, there has been obsessions with extraterrestrials. You saw that there's that one thing in like in Europe where they have the saucers, the pictures of the saucers that showed up, right? That's like a painting. And
Dude, no, I have not seen that.
Yeah, like so throughout history, UFOs have shown up and people don't know what they are. That's what Ancient Aliens is all about. Is the iconography of aliens is throughout ancient cultures, right? Of course. Pyramids, that's the easiest way to stack bricks is a pyramid, right? So, the idea that there's pyramids throughout the equator in, Latin America and Egypt and in like China, right? So that's a whole other bullshit thing. I'm not even talking about that.
Okay. I'm
just saying that, throughout history, it's not like aliens are like just coming now. I think we're reaching a tipping point where, we can't, there's too much. We have satellites everywhere. At a certain point, they're going to either have to slowly admit that, yeah, they've been lying, because think about it. Think about if there exist, okay? Now just forget like whatever. Think about if there are actually things here that are watching us, right? That are bigger than us, right? Think about the implications that means to us as humans. Think about what that means to all these religious people that think that God is the only thing, and that how would this interact with the way humans think? This could be fundamentally change the way humans like interact with the world and think about themselves, right?
Okay.
You want to talk about narcissistic? I think it's narcissistic to think that we are the only creatures able to observe the universe, right? We're
That's
the only creatures that can make meaning to the universe, right? Without us, there is no meaning to the universe because we create that idea, right?
I do think that there are larger things exerting. I mean, you could just look at nature being a higher power, and look at maybe your example of other things looking at us, whatever. It's an elephant. A fucking elephant is a part of this big, ecological ecosystem that's looking at us, the actions of humans, whatever. But just to get, just to take it down one more path, maybe we can find a way to have it so that aliens actually do exist here, and maybe we're not talking about literal aliens like plasma covered whatever from Mars. We're talking about the algorithms. Maybe the aliens are the algorithms. And in the same way I brought up the financial system and how it's gotten so complicated people can't even fully understand it, our society is that way.
Absolutely.
So that we have introduced alien-like properties to our daily lives even, to our unidentified algorithmic structures.
There is a theory that they're not aliens, that it is the final form of humans, and that it's humans from the future that are watching the past. That is another theory. That if you take, what everyone thinks aliens look like, which is the common thing of big giant heads, big giant eyes,
he anthropomorphized
tiny bodies,
everything though.
Right. But I'm just saying, like that's. But like if you take evolution to the final level, if we all combine, we're all gonna have big giant heads, tiny bodies, where we're gonna, all be gray. We won't have colors.
Neanderthals, did have larger heads. They had larger skulls. They did have larger bodies. But we fucking killed them because humans worked together.
We
took their ass over.
You should read that book, Sapiens. It's a great book. I started reading it. It's really interesting. It's all about
Yuval Noah Harari. I've read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking love that book.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite books actually. If anyone hasn't checked it out, and they talk. He like opens it up like that there's 4 human-like species that walk the earth, and we're the only ones who
we survived. We killed them all basically.
Yeah.
But he says we killed them all, but we kind of like
through our cooperation.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you just quickly going back to the thing you mentioned, like the similar structures you find at the equatorial, geography, longitude of the globe. Like I think that there are all sorts of things like that out there. We're like, God, it seems amazing that in this culture, in that country, in this location,
but there are commonalities in humans, right? There are
in
commonalities.
Nature.
Yes.
In the same way, you're looking at the Fibonacci sequence in ferns and in nature, and how there are only so many ways that you can express life.
But people use that Fibonacci sequence as a divine inspiration, right? People use the Fibonacci sequence as obviously we have to have a creator because everything is so perfect, right? So that you know what I'm saying?
But that,
you could believe that or not. I'm just saying, like,
you can say that about. But no, but I think I'm bringing it up at least because there are fundamental truths to the atom-based, like proton, electron, neutron-based life on this planet, and the reason that the structures, maybe the pyramid-like structures, the triangles are the same here and there, are because that's what a fucking mountain is.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And that when rocks fall on each other, they end up in a certain shape.
Right.
And if you look into that, I think it might speak more to your ability to believe
Yeah.
on a genetic level. Like, I think
Sure.
in some ways I'm a genetic non-believer.
Right.
Like, it's hard for me to believe
You're a
in
true
things.
skeptic. True skeptic. And I'm
not even saying that. I don't even know. But I'm saying I haven't, at the threshold I'm at, like,
Yeah.
I haven't crossed over into religious belief,
Yeah.
alien belief.
spirituality.
So,
Well, maybe that's our biggest barrier is you're more, real, and I'm a lot more spiritual. I'm willing to take the leap on the fucking crazy cosmic thing.
And you're supposed
Not
to.
that it's a bad no, not as a bad thing.
No,
right?
you're supposed to. And you're supposed to evaluate according to your own genetic
Right.
disposition.
Right.
So I think it's fully natural that we see discrepancies in Pentagon leaks, or at least discrepancies in how we categorize and then interpret that information.
I tell you what, I'm gonna send you a shit ton of videos. I'm gonna inundate you with videos to the point where you're like, Matt, just fucking stop, please, because there's just so much video evidence right now. Little things, big things, silly things, fake
Am I being a
things.
dickhead by saying, like,
Not at
because
all.
I haven't seen the video evidence,
all.
it's fucking bullshit?
No, that's exactly how
Is
you
that,
should be.
is that shitty of me to be like,
No.
I read the New York Times enough,
Yeah.
I go on YouTube or Reddit, like I these young male meeting ground type
Sure,
sites where
gotcha.
they're fucking dying to be sharing this stuff with you. The fact
Absolutely.
that I've gone this far, this long through these platforms and haven't seen enough, is it wrong for me to say it's bullshit, or?
No, I don't know. It's you have your
'Cause
opinion is
there's
absolutely
nothing-
valid. Like, because it is like any conspiracy theory. It is conspiracy.
Give me the
theory.
number one most damning video or photographic evidence you've ever seen.
It would be this Tic Tac and gimbal videos. This is what really flipped me back around. When I saw these videos and I listened to the commander talk about it, and I was like, I'd never, because I'd seen videos. I've read accounts. I've read abduction accounts. I've read all sorts of cattle mutilation, all that shit, right? Like, and it's interesting. It's interesting, right? But I'm was always the grain of sand. Like, wow, it'd be cool if I actually saw a video, or it'd be cool if I actually saw something, right?
Yeah.
But when I saw these videos and I saw that it was released by the government because they could no longer keep it under wraps, because these videos were released in 2017, but they were taken in 2015. They were taken way earlier. So they weren't going to release these videos until this guy, using the Freedom of Information Act, made them come out with it because he saw them, right? So, like, and to your point about secrecy, I think that there is a level of secrecy when it's things that people have a hard time understanding that they would rather not know, right? Like, again, it's if this is something that could fundamentally change you, it's easier to kind of sweep it under the rug and make it, and then like, aliens, fuck, there are no aliens. This is a weather balloon. Yeah, I'd rather believe it's a weather balloon.
Like, the threshold is greater when it's more like earth-shattering.
Yes,
When
and
it's-
exactly why they changed the name of UFOs to UAPs, right? It's exactly the same reason. You can't take UFOs seriously. But if fucking Marco Rubio actually has military evidence and reports that unidentified aerial phenomenon are flying over nuclear bases, flipping nuclear weapons on and off, and fucking with our stuff. And again, if that's true and we don't know what they are, fine. They're not aliens, not from outer space. What if they're Chinese? What if they're Russian and they're able to do this stuff? The idea is, like, they want to know what this is that's affecting our military might, right?
I would much more rather go with the line of thinking that this is somehow a government conspiracy to
Government
aid
psyop.
the new Cold War, or to, like, add to the new Cold War with China, so that we can then expeditiously ban TikTok and fuck with Huawei, whatever, some more.
Yeah.
And you mentioned maybe you can't use the UFO anymore. Kind of mentioned unidentified flying objects. You mentioned Marco Rubio. I think, again, the real problem is Marco Rubio is becoming unidentified on the street. I think people don't even know who this motherfucker is anymore. So he would rather be the UFO quack than
Sure.
have no future in, like, a...
That being said, he is the head of the intelligence committee. That's why he's in charge, though. He's not doing it because he's like nobody. He's technically the person in charge of.
No, you're
really close. He's the person in charge of the committee. So it's not like he's like. I mean, I'm sure he's taking it upon himself to use his standing in the committee and yada yada yada. But
yeah, he's not using the intelligence committee to interfere or to talk about Russian interference in the election.
no, he's talking about Venezuela, though. He likes to talk about Venezuela.
Well, it's convenient shit for him, isn't it?
Won't talk about Puerto Rico, but I'll talk about Venezuela. Anyways, I'm gonna show you a bunch of videos.
I was gonna say we have to cut this off.
I know
just so
this
I can watch
is
some videos.
like an hour and a half. This is a really long one. We should start getting
We might have, actually, it might be so dark at this point in the camera. I might have have to just be showing
Just
your
audio-
videos
Oh my
overlaid,
God, you
overlaid
should,
the
like,
podcast.
just the TikTok videos over and over again. A bunch of cool videos. And I mean, yeah, that's how it's going. Anyways, we'll end this.
Well, thank you for giving me the rundown. And
I mean, I didn't convince you anything, but I just
No,
hoping
I'm-
you opened that little eye opened just a
No.
little bit.
it's slammed shut. No, and I'm just being fully fucking honest.
Sure,
At
yeah,
this
you have
point,
to
I
be.
got nothing to get me to that other side of UFOs. Like, especially just because there are so many people, and there fucking always have been ever since we were born, that so deeply want to believe in this thing and want to have identity around this thing and around whether they realize it or not.
How is that different than religion, though?
It's not. I mentioned the genetic non-believer
right,
thing.
right.
Like, I don't know. I can't tell you how many genes are involved in this, but I could tell you that, yeah, it does have to do with activation and whether or not you're in a rural place and can explain lights, or whether you're in a urban place and can't explain the lights, and which other factors
Speaking of lights.
Speaking of lights, we're going to have
Start that
to
here.
turn the lights on for the next episode to
Yeah.
make sure we get enough time in here. Matt, thanks for coming on. 35th episode.
Pleasure to be here for 35. Big old a fat 35, huh?
Last thing, is 35 in any way special in UFO terminology?
Fuck. Well, in the year 1935, there was a giant. No, I don't know. I could have kept bullshitting. Isn't that when that thing crashed? That big meteor crashed in Tuskegee? No, that was 1909. That meteor in Russia.
Roswell has had 35 chiefs of police
that was in the 50s.
since
And even that
the
situation,
legendary crashings.
the day in Roswell came out, right? That the newspaper released, they found a crashed. The government says they found a crashed UFO. Blah blah blah. The next day, they're like, "Oh no, that was a lie. It was a weather balloon." They retracted it the next day. But that's after they had pictures of these guys holding these materials that were stronger than steel and all this stuff. I saw the video of the guy, of the guy 60. He's 60 years old, and he was the guy in the original picture.
And look, I don't want to be ignorant to the fact
Anyways,
that
I
government
can just keep going.
agencies do lie to us all the fucking time
Absolutely.
based on convenience and based on
It's
what's
true.
just like literally crowd control. Like all
Somebody-
that CDC stuff we recently mentioned and how like they're fucking just cattle
Yes.
controlling us
Yes.
basically. So
Another vein is somebody saying that's why we're releasing more UFO stuff, to get people talking about a different conspiracy theory.
Dude, I think
and
that's
distract more people. And
Now
they're
we're
just
talking.
they're just using this as, anher psyop to get people talking about other things, right?
Proxy
Another
war,
like a guy
whatever.
like me who likes real conspiracy theories and not fucking like stupid Pizzagate, right? Like a real conspiracy theory. So like I'm interested.
Now we're talking.
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
anyways.
that's more of a UFO conspiracy I can get behind, using it as a way to be smoke screening for Trump.
It's a
or-
psyop,
yeah,
right? It's
okay,
a psyop.
yeah.
And that, with Space Force and all this stuff that he's, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I'm with you now.
I see you. I know. But I'm not going to go that way because there's too much I've seen, I don't want to believe that.
Well, send me some videos and
I
maybe
will.
I'll throw them on here.
Maybe we'll see.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Talk to you next time. Bye.
Good night.